Hello. Now we're going to continue our work in integers, and we're going to have a look at how to add and subtract integers. Now you already know how to add and subtract numbers, but now that we've got negative numbers, minus numbers to deal with, we have to be careful we understand exactly how we're going to use our tools to solve our problems. And the key thing here is going to be our number line. So I want people drawing out number lines when they're doing the problem so that they can keep track of what the numbers are doing. But we also have another tool available to us, and that's to imagine that the numbers we're dealing with are really money. So the first few examples we're going to deal with are going to be taking our number problems, our adding and subtracting, and treating them like we had money and we were trying to keep account of how much money we had. So let's have a look at this in practice. So I have €5 and I have €2. So I can imagine I have a €5 note plus a €2 note. How many euro am I going to have in total? Now this is just a natural numbers problem. We've been doing sums like this for years. How much euro or how many euro am I going to have in total? I can use my number line for this. So I start at €5 and I add €2. So if I'm adding, I'm going to get bigger, it's going to make me add stuff on. So I go 2 places and I end up at €7. And we're all probably fairly happy with that idea. If we have €5 plus €2, in total we have €7. Now, if I go into a shop and I have a €5 note and I spend €2 of it, I'm removing €2. So subtracting is removing things. So if I'm removing €2 in order to pay for a chocolate bar or a drink, then I'm going to be left with, well, I start at €5 and I subtract 2. I remove 2, so 2 brings me down to €3. So I can see how I'm able to use my number line to figure out this problem. So far, it's work we've already done. We've done this many, many times. Now let's have a look at where we have something that looks a little bit different and see if we can understand it in terms of money. So here I have €5 plus, so I'm adding something on, but what am I adding on? Well, this is minus €2, negative €2. And we can imagine this in a particular way. We can say that this is effectively a debt. So if we owe someone money, we could give them a piece of paper, or we could say to them, I owe you €2. And that's a debt. So if I'm thinking of all of the money I've got in total, it's like a negative €2 that I'm keeping track of. I don't have that money. In fact, I owe that money to someone else. So I have a debt, so I'm less €2. I'm €2 smaller in terms of all of the money that I've got. So I am adding on this debt of €2. And what's the consequence of that? Well, it means that overall I'm still losing €2 because I am adding on a debt. I am taking on a debt. So that means that I'm still in the situation where I start at €5 and I'm going to have a debt of €2. So my overall money is going to get 2 smaller, and I have €3 in total in terms of what I own. Now, that's our first debt situation. But we can use debt even more cleverly for this next problem here. So I have €5 and I subtract a debt of €2. Well, if I remove a debt, if I have money and someone says, no, you don't need to pay me back, I'm removing a debt. So my minus sign means that I'm removing something, just like I removed €2 up here. But I am now removing a debt. Well, that effectively means that I'm €2 richer overall. If I owe someone €2 and they say, I don't have to pay it back, for whatever reason, they're just in a good mood on a particular day, and they say, you don't have to pay me back, that means I'm effectively €2 richer because I don't have to pay that back anymore. I have gotten rid of a debt of €2. So my negative €2 is a debt, money I owed, and I'm removing that debt, which is essentially the same as having €2 more than I thought I had. So I'm at €5. My overall finances, I thought, were €5. But now that I've been forgiven this debt, it's like I have €2 more than I thought I did. So now I have €7. I'm €2 richer than I thought I was. So that is how we can think of debts as being negative numbers, or negative numbers as being debts. And if we can think of adding as adding something on and subtracting as removing, then we can tell ourselves the story of negative numbers, the story of adding and subtracting integers. But I've been using the number line as well. So let's see how we would do this just with the number line. So the debt method will always work. You'll always be able to picture negative numbers as being like debts, and adding as being adding stuff on, and subtracting as being removing things. And if we can keep track of those ideas, they'll help us hugely. But the number line is really powerful, because when we look at something, when we see a picture of what we're doing, we're much more comfortable and confident to be able to do it. So the number line is absolute king here. The number line is going to really help us keep track and get strong with these kind of questions. So let's try our issue here. I'm going to start out with positive 3, plus 3. There's no sign here, so that means that I effectively am at plus 3. So the 3 that I'm used to. Now I'm going to remove 7. I'm going to subtract 7. So I'm taking away 7. That means I'm going to get smaller. So I'm going to move 7 spaces colder, or 7 spaces toward the left, toward the negative numbers on my number line. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I end up all the way down at minus 4. Now you can see how useful the number line is here for being able to keep track of what we're doing. I've subtracted 7 away, and I can see I end up down at minus 4, and I can actually see how I got there. So it's really worth our while when we're doing these problems to have a number line out in front of us and keep track of what we're doing. And over time, we'll be able to keep the number line in our head. But for the next long while, we're going to use the number line to keep track of what we're doing, and it's going to make life so much easier. So we have 3 minus 7, and we see from our number line we've moved 7 spaces down, so we end up at minus 4. Now let's try another problem here. We have minus 4 and minus 3. So where are we going to start? We're going to start at minus 4. We're going to start down at minus 4. And where are we going to move? Well, we can see that we have a minus 3. So we're taking away 3. So we're taking away 3. Are we going to get bigger or smaller? Taking away, we're going to get colder. We're going to get smaller. So we're going to go down by 3. So 1, 2, 3 takes me down to minus 7. So I end up down at minus 7 when I start at minus 4 and I remove 3. I take away 3. Now, next idea. We're going to start at 1, positive 1. There's no sign in front of us here, so we have a positive 1 is where we're going to start. And what are we doing? Well, we have to be careful here. We are adding on minus 2. So our debt idea now can help us. We are going to take on this debt of minus 2. We're going to take on this debt of 2. So we're going to be going downwards. We're adding on a negative. So we are going to end up reducing our amount. So we're going to go down by 2 because we're adding on a negative. If we think back to adding on our debt. So we're adding on our debt and we're going to go down by 2. because we have minus 2 and we end up down at minus 1. And finally, we start up at plus 3. We start up at plus 3. And what are we going to do? We're going to add on negative 7. So we're adding on a debt, we're adding on negativity. So we're adding on our minus 7. So that means we're going to go down. We're going to get colder by 7. And if we go back to what we were talking about the last day, we can also think about this in terms of temperature. If it's a cold winter's day and we say, oh, it's 3 degrees outside, and then we say, and then we hear on the radio it's going to get 7 degrees colder tonight. Well, what temperature is it going to be when we are at night? What temperature are we going to be down at night if we start at 3 degrees and we get colder by 7 degrees? We go down by 7 degrees. In fact, I think I'm going to do this on our thermometer number line over on the left hand side. So I start at 3, and what am I going to do? I can see that I'm at 3 degrees and I'm going to get 7 degrees colder. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I end up down at minus 4. So I end up down at minus 4. Now in these examples you can possibly start to see a little bit of a pattern. I have 3 plus minus 7 ends up being the same as 3 minus 7. 5 minus minus 2 ends up being the same as 5 plus 2. Now you might be able to spot the beginnings of a pattern here, and we're going to come back to that very soon. But for right now, we have our thermometer to help us keep track of integers, we have the idea of debts, and incredibly importantly, we have our number lines, and we're going to keep using them in order to get really good at picturing what happens with our different adding and subtracting of our integers.